Okay. Uh-oh. Alright. 3, 2, 1, go. Alright, so this is no out of bounds. So as the category name might imply, this category bans doing any skips that involve going out of bounds, but there's still some really interesting stuff we get to do in this category. But this beginning section starts out pretty simple. You just have to climb up the scaffolding.
Alright. So, Outlast, no out of bounds. When you think of categories like no out of bounds, you think, oh, boring. You get to see like everything of the game. But that's in fact not true.
Not true at all, as a matter of fact.
And comparatively to the glitchless route, you save over 10 minutes in all sorts of ways. You have a few techniques, and Nerd's just gonna be showing them. Like after he gets out of this vent, he already does a cool trick. And there's also like animation stuff, like with doors, because doors are really buggy in this game.
To say the least.
It's like it's like the gateway to out of bounds.
Yeah.
So here we have our first enemy encounter. It's Chris Walker. He's quite terrifying when you play Outlast for the first time. He's just like the beast of Outlast. He's not walking very fast, but he like 2-hits you on an easy mode, and even on insane he actually just 1-hits you. Thank God we have some strategies, and we are running the game at easy.
Yeah, the little pig, as it were.
Yeah, his nickname is Little Pig because he always calls you like, no, actually his nickname is not Little Pig. What?
He calls us that.
Like his nickname for you is Little Pig because why not, you know?
So that wall break glitch I was doing, it might have looked like I was going out of bounds, and in fact you'll see me slightly clip out of bounds. Very slightly in some parts. We still remain within the map while doing it though, so it's technically still in bounds. We'll be doing another one coming up here, and it involves a very tricky setup, so hopefully I get it. If I don't, I'll just watch the cutscene here, but we got it, so hopefully I don't mess this up.
Good. Nice.
Alright, very nice. So that skips a little cutscene there with that where that guy in the wheelchair would jump scare us.
There are some pretty good rules settings for out of bounds. You can just not deload the level and be out of boundaries. That's all it is. There's a few there's like I think like 15 minutes into the run. No, even further I think. There's like this thing where you load a chapter, but right after that chapter checkpoint, there's actually like a point where you deload the entire level, so that if that happens in your run, it's basically a rip run.
Yep, your run is invalid. Ejected. But anyways, we have an enemy encounter here, but I'm gonna do a little setup here where I look at this corner, and when he bashes down the door, in just a second.
So here's Chris Walker again.
Yep. Yeah, but I did a little setup there where I sort of clipped into the door, and when Chris bashed down the door, his hitbox clipped into me, and that let me leave the room a bit early. What you're meant to do, whoops, got a little lost there, but that's fine. What you're meant to do at that part is you're supposed to wait in a locker until Chris leaves the room. But in most other categories, besides insane difficulty runs, you would just leave as soon as Chris bashes down the door there.
Insane is miscellaneous anyway, so.
Yeah. So enemies, as you can probably tell so far, they're not much of a problem at all in a speedrun. They're pretty easy to avoid. Although, when they do manage to hit you, it loses about a second, so you want to avoid getting hit by them as much as you can.
So what Nerd just did at the door, uh, where he, like before he pulled the lever, whatever. He actually did a door glitch where it loses the hitbox at the door so you can walk through it, but for enemies it's still closed or opened. And they just start doing an animation of bashing open the door, but there's not really a hitbox for you, so you can just run through the door. And it has some pretty cool effects. And those kind of like tiny time saves is really like necessary for having a good no out of bounds run.
Yeah, for reference, the world record is 38:26, and I have a 39:15. Of course, that's without loads, as this is a PC game. And there I did a save and quit. It's the first of several we'll be doing throughout the run. From the way I understand it, Streaming Fire can correct me. There's several checkpoints throughout each chapter, and each chapter in the game has a spawn point that puts you at when you reload a save by saving and exiting. And in some cases, like that right there, it teleports us further in the level. But in this specific case, it lets us skip a cutscene. And that's the only cutscene in the game where we can do that. There's a big cutscene we'll be watching towards the halfway mark that has a checkpoint right before it, but you can't skip the cutscene by reloading that checkpoint. So here we'll be doing the ledge run. Oh, okay, well, that happened. Let's try that again, shall we? Oh my gosh, I look like a fool. So anyways, that was the ledge run. I'll let Stream Fire explain how that works, because I don't know how it works.
There's like you have like Q and E on your keyboard as standard, and when you run and press one of those keys, it actually like you look backwards in the direction you're like pressing E or Q, and the game just like ignores the triggers like walking over a ledge by doing that, so you can just literally run over it.
Yeah, there's another one we'll be doing in the courtyard chapter, which is towards the halfway mark, and it's really, really hard.
Yeah,
it's annoying to get.
It can kill a lot of runs.
Yeah.
But we're not in Female Report yet.
Yeah, the odd thing is some of these tricks are really hard, but I'm consistent at most of them, except for a couple, and the courtyard ledge run is one of them.
Ledge yard.
English is hard, anyways.
Most of the courtyard is all about the ledge.
Yeah.
I guess you can call it ledge yard.
So we'll be doing another enemy dodge here, and we'll be with an enemy called the Naked Twin. We want to avoid getting hit by this enemy at all costs, because if we do get hit, we instantly die. So I want to concentrate here while doing this dodge really quick. Dang, I died, so I had to retry. Rip.
Thank God there's like a checkpoint.
Yeah, there's a checkpoint right at the start of the room. I have a pretty tight estimate, but mistakes like that shouldn't cost all that much. I'll just do the old method. And it worked. Cool. So that method is a bit slower. What you would do is you move to the side right in front of that guy, and that baits out his attack, and that gives you a 5-second window to just run past him. Whoops, I have to get this ghosting glitch here. It's actually kind of important.
There's a cool thing here, or actually everywhere, where you can skip any sorts of animations that are triggerable and like a small animation based on the player, so not cutscenes and stuff like that. If you press crouch during that, it actually skips those animations, so you can skip button presses. You can't like, for instance, basement you have like this lever thing, but it's like a sort of different trigger, because if you like hit it, the thing activates the moment like you pull it down, like in animation, so it won't let you crouch. It's like locked, but otherwise it isn't.
Cujo, please. So yeah, we had another enemy dodge there with Chris, but he's pretty easy to avoid once again. That's actually one of the scarier sections when you play the game the first time. So here, we'll be doing a trick called door boosting for the first and only time in this run. And it's already over.
Door boosting is like the gateway to out of bounds in every other category besides glitches and stuff like that. But you can use it in you can't really use it in no out of bounds because you can't go out of bounds. But in this case, you just boost yourself upwards and you don't really go out of bounds. So.
Yeah, speaking of tricks that I mentioned earlier that looks sort of out of bounds, this is one of them. This is actually pretty precise, so hopefully I get it. I think my movement was good there. And we got it, cool.
Nice. It's one of the harder skips a lot of people don't understand. But what you basically do is by vaulting over a thing, you shrink your hitbox again because it's an Unreal Engine 3 game. And the hitboxes are really fucked. So which means you can like literally run while you're crouched. The game thinks, because you can't crouch when your hitbox is shrinked, because it thinks you're in an animation.
Dang it. Didn't get the Chris dodge, rip.
Yeah, this Chris dodge is like the most annoying dodge in the entire game.
Yeah, I rarely ever get it.
Because missing it is like 1 second. It's not a lot of time, but when you really get competitive in those kind of categories, it kind of is.
Well, we're save and
So
quit.
there's 7 chapters.
And yeah, there's 7 chapters. I did another save and quit there to skip the animation of turning the valve. That works me here. We'll be doing a jump to skip falling down this ladder. That's the easier setup. There is another setup that I found, I don't believe anyone else has found, that saves about 2 seconds. But it's really risky. And that's all for a 2-second time save at the probably 11-minute mark. Which, when you're resetting constantly for a good time, it gets really aggravating to reset over. Yeah, but we'll be doing another ladder skip here, and it's much easier because you just jump down a hole and that's it. The earlier ladder jump we did was possible because with that setup we landed on an invisible ledge, and you might think that we die from fall damage, but that invisible platform that we hit is just high enough so we don't die from fall damage, and the fall we do right after that to get off doesn't do any fall damage whatsoever. Yeah, good old sewer section. Every horror game I can think of that I've played has some sort of sewer section, and this game is no exception. I don't remember specifically if the sequel has one, but I don't think it does. The sequel is a whole nother can of worms that we won't delve into. So, we'll be doing a bit of movement through water here. Normally it's very slow, but you can just jump through the water to negate the slower movement speed. If you constantly spam jump, which you would do naturally to try to go faster, it's actually slower because you gradually lose speed. So I space out my jumps there in order to get the most distance out of my jumps that I possibly can. I basically jump about a split second after Miles touches the ground. So we have another enemy dodge, but that enemy dodge is a bit weird. For some reason, he's pretty much impossible to avoid without getting hit. There are a couple of people I know of, though, that have managed to avoid him without getting hit, but it's very, very rare.
It's a hard dodge, let's just call it that.
Yeah.
And everyone gets it in their run, so it's not really any time gain or lose.
Yeah. Another save and quit. Not only does this warp us a bit forward and saves a couple of seconds without loads, but it also gets rid of a whole bunch of lag you would have to deal with on these stairs, and the lag on those stairs is horrible. the glitchless category of this game that Shooting Fire mentioned does not allow doing save and quits, so you'd have to go on those stairs with the lag, and it really
Yeah,
throws you off. You can
it's
end up,
annoying because yeah, you can like end up getting stuck
yeah,
between the like. There's like a tiny loading save just before you enter the tunnel, and the tunnel has not a, like you need to like really fit yourself in there. And we have like some lag, you can easily get stuck.
yeah, we play this game through the game's file folder because that avoids lag on almost every other save in the game that you get if you play this game through Steam or GOG. So I did a little trick there, which is I call crouch jumping, but for some odd reason the official name is butt bouncing. I don't know why, it just is.
It's called butt hopping,
Oh, butt hopping, well, same thing.
and it like gives you a little bit of speed, but it can also not be faster if you don't have anything to like get yourself out of the thing because you have to stand up. So he actually does it here with with a vault. He does like I think like 8 butt hops and then vaults over. It's pretty cool. Pretty cool looking. You know, like yeah, that turn on the door is pretty hard to maintain your butt hop. So coming up is the Traeger cutscene, and
Yeah,
it's
but
long
yeah,
and cruel.
yeah. So I did a little save and quit there, and that not only skips the animation of climbing up onto the ledge, but works me a bit forward again. So I'm gonna close this door to make sure that enemies don't come in here and hit me while I try to open this dumbwaiter, because that wastes a couple of seconds. So
The
yeah,
cool thing on save and quits and loads is like when you load the game again, you can like jump forwards and it won't give you like this cooldown on jumping again. It will just keep bunny hopping and it saves a lot of time. And it's
yeah,
actually like
because when you start,
heavily.
oh sorry, when you
It's
start
like
running forward, you gradually gain speed. But jumping like that, when you load in, once you go to your top speed immediately. Assuming you mash spacebar accurately enough. Because you actually have to mash pretty hard to get to top speed almost immediately. So yeah.
So in my opinion, the second half of the run, which we call like after Traeger, is way more interesting in No Other Bones. There's a lot of skips. There's sprinkler skip, fuel ward skip. You also have like Superman jump in lab.
Yeah. It's
There are
also
pretty
really
skips.
difficult.
Kinda.
I'm consistent at the skips, like I said, but they're really difficult to pull off. If anything, it's probably the point that newer runners struggle at the most.
Yeah. We have to say though, if you want to like get into Outlast, No Other Bones is a good place to start.
Yes.
If you're, and then maybe any percent all chapters, and if you really want to grind glitches.
If you're
Glitches is
if you're
easy.
obsessed with Underground Lab, do any percent, Kappa.
Exactly. Because any percent has like a cool skip. Any percent is just like 9 minutes. Because you skip from the beginning chapter where the gate was and stuff like that, where you're outside with your car, all the way to the last chapter by jumping all the way down from out of bounds. And you literally hit a save trigger all the way in lab. It's pretty insane actually when you think about it.
Also, there's a certain line during this cutscene that I want Twitch chat to listen for. It's pretty great.
Well, I mean, there are multiple lines. I don't know which one you're talking about.
There's one. You'll know. You'll know. Okay. Alright, right here.
I'm a bit worried how much time you've been spending with Father Martin. I know.
So after
I hope
this.
you haven't been letting him confuse you with all this holier than thou.
Bible thump.
No offense to the man, but
There we go.
time's worth.
Go crazy with the Bible thumps.
It's understandable. Maybe it was scared. There's like to turn the daughters around. God died with the ghost. You have to rob Paul to take Peter. There's no other way. Murder is the simplest thing. But what happens when all money's gone?
So yeah, this is the goriest part of the game because for whatever reason, Traeger just cuts off her fingers. Just nonchalantly. That's normal.
After seeing this like 2,000 times, it's not as cool anymore.
Yeah, you just get desensitized to it.
It's funny because when you do like the 80% skip to that, your fingers also cut off.
Yeah, the game, when you hit a checkpoint after this cutscene, like in all chapters for example, the game assumes that the right game sort of recognizes that you got past Traeger. So it assumes that since you got past the Traeger cutscene, your fingers are taken off. So it just takes off your fingers once you reload a save after beating Traeger. Or after going through this cutscene. So you have a little mini game there where we have to waggle our mouse to get out of the wheelchair. It doesn't matter what speed you move your mouse there. It goes at the same speed every time.
Nerd, you shouldn't be shit talking 80% by the way. Good choice in chat.
So I'm doing another wall right here. It's not major, but it lets us leave the room a bit early. Traeger will push open the door, and we'll be able to clip through the door when he opens it. Also,
I hit box. Yeah, you can go first.
yeah, there was a new strat in this chase sequence found by a runner of this game named Brimstone. It's not major like this wall ride, but it lets us save. It saves a few seconds. I'll let you guys know when that comes up. And there, just go through the door.
There's the normal hitbox where you are like full size and you can't really clip through anything. Then you have the default hitbox, which makes it like half the size, and then you have the door hitbox, which makes it like 1/4 the size, and you can do a lot of stuff from that.
Yeah, I could turn on the debug tools to show you, but that would invalidate the run, so I'm not going to do that.
No PB anymore.
So the strat to avoid Traeger there in a speedrun is pretty easy. You just lure him into that room and close the door on him. This is one of the scarier and more difficult sections when you play the game your first time. For sure. So I'm jumping to the side of the vent there to hopefully get a quick climb animation, but I failed that one just there. So this is where that new strat comes into play. We'll be getting a key to go into the elevator that you might have seen as I was breezing through that section. And we'll be doing a wall ride to try to leave the room early, but it's pretty tricky to get because you only get a couple tries at it before you have to do older strats. Because you don't have enough time to... Okay, I got it. So if you messed it up, you would have to do a different strat, but I got it there. Whoa! Okay! Okay, guess I'm reloading. That can sometimes happen with it, is the problem. You can just get boosted on top of that door and Traeger breaks through. That's okay, we'll just have to do older strats. So the older strat is to jump to the side. Like this. I honestly should have gone with that, but whatever.
I normally, like, when I do this, I stand to the other side, like, so I can't clip you up. But that's
okay.
cool. You might, like, want to look into that.
Yeah, it's a fairly new strat. It was found within, I believe, the last week or so. Dude, Kujo, I'm sorry, man.
So coming up is Sprinkler Skip. There's an entire section after this. It's like 2 minutes, 2.5, 3 maybe. And by doing this skip, you skip the entire section. But this is also the risky part that if you go a little too far, you deload the entire level and the run is
yeah,
invalidated.
for the purposes of a no out of bounds run, I'll still continue if I fall out, but if I was doing a PB attempt, my run would be invalid, so let's hope that doesn't happen. And we are doing a marathon run after all, so I don't want to jinx it. Okay, that should work. Nice, alright. So that just, as Streaming Fire mentioned, that skipped having to turn on the sprinklers and about 2 minutes of gameplay. And that's the point where if you go too far to that archway, or too close to that archway, you deload the level. So now I'm doing Courtyard. And it's actually done in pretty much the same way as all the other categories, minus glitchless and 8%, of course. Because glitchless, this trick isn't allowed, and 8% doesn't even do this chapter. We're doing another wall ride. This wall ride is a little tricky because this particular wall likes to really likes to push you off. I do a safe method of getting across this wall where I just jump along it. I get in a habit of autopiling though and jumping past this corner, which you don't want to do because you'd have to do that whole wall ride over again.
Oh yeah, that's alright.
So now is the ledge run I mentioned earlier in prison, I believe it was, where it's significantly harder than the first ledge run we did in this run. We have to do a certain, it's not, I don't really have a setup for it, I just go for it. You have to jump at the corner of a ledge coming up here in order to be able to run across it. If your angle is wrong, you'll just fall off the ledge or you'll miss the ledge entirely. So let's hope and pray. Yeah, I fell off there, so I'm gonna have to retry. Okay. Cool, got it.
Nice.
I don't know if that
Isn't
save
it
and
one
quit
still saves time?
saves time. Yeah. I did a save and quit there. I don't know if it saves time. I just do it. Because with the PB I have now, I go for all the time saves I could possibly get.
Optimally, every save and quit saves time.
Yeah, but it requires very quick menuing.
If you have new, like if you have room to jump after the save and quit, it like immediately saves time, and at any percent, like the only thing you do is save and quit, basically.
Yeah. So we'll be doing the hardest skip of the entire run. That could cause me to very well go over estimate, but we're gonna do it anyways. It's a trick called the female ward skip. Yes, indeed. So, because what you would normally do in the female ward is to do a fetch quest like the generator section I did in the admin block, or the first chapter of the game, and to turn on a laundry chute, and you get a key from that laundry chute, which you would use to get to the 3rd floor. I'm gonna concentrate here because this part's hard. Okay, got that. And then you use the key to get to the 3rd floor to go to a section where you drop your camera down a hole and you'd have to go retrieve it. But with this wall right here, which is actually a lot more difficult than it looks that I just got, we skip straight to this section where you'd get the camera. And appropriately, I split right at that point where the guy jump scares you. I guess it's a appropriate way to end off that skip. Like, it just adds on to the adrenaline you feel when you get that skip first try on a PB pace run.
Yeah, exactly. There's no way of skipping that cutscene.
Yeah.
So it's funny because you grab a camera while you already have your camera on.
Yeah, I guess the camera I guess how it works is you have your camera throughout the entire game, and then there's that one extra camera model just sitting on the table that I went to just there, and it's just sitting there the entire time. But I guess what happens is the camera you've had so far disappears. I'm guessing that's how it works. I'm pretty sure that's
Yeah, it just
wrong.
looks like our previous camera. It's just a totally different camera.
Yeah, it's a replica. Anyways. So we have a fairly tricky jump here, but I usually never miss it. Of course, that means I'm gonna miss it. And I didn't miss it, so we're good. I jump at basically the last possible second. And that lets me jump down there without having to go across a few ledges. It looks hard, and it kind of is, but it's not that difficult in reality. So there's Chris again, but we just have to go in this vent. We don't have to dodge him again. So now we get to do theater skip. It's a similarly veined skip to the email word skip. We'll be going straight to the end of the chapter by doing another very long wall ride, and there's a particular part with the skip that could cost me an equally large amount of time compared to missing the previous skip. I'll mention it when I get to it. First I have to get to this wall ride, or do this wall ride here. So on that corner there, if you turn your camera too quickly, you'll accidentally fling yourself out of bounds. And that's another point where you can invalidate your run. So I have to be really careful with my movement here, otherwise I'll fall out of bounds. So we have to get on top of this railing, but it really likes to not regain collision, so you can get on top of it. So this can be a very, very annoying part when resetting for a PV. So we'll see.
Sometimes Luke sees out of bounds, but his hitbox isn't.
Yeah.
The camera can be much. Yeah, it's annoying. It's a very annoying skip.
Man,
you can like.
I think
when
my
you go
angle's
a
too
little
sharp.
far to the right.
I've looked into semi-consistent ways of getting the skip, but I haven't found success really.
When you go a little too far to the right, you actually just fall down. And you're out of bounds again.
Man.
Ish.
Let's try this angle. Man. So, there's no consistent angle to get this. It's literally just a guessing game and hoping you get on top of this railing. This is the very annoying part about doing runs of this.
I can tell you my setup if you want.
Oh, what's your setup then? New strats live, guys.
I just like don't look sideways, but I just look a little to the right, like an angle of like 10 degrees to the right, when you're up, like a little up, and then you just jump backwards.
Oh, thank you. Oh no! Wait. Okay. We got it. It took some fumbling, but we got it.
New strats live.
Alright, so that probably will cause us to go over estimate, or at least pretty darn close to it, but we got it. So that skips a whole section where you'd have to go through the theater to get a key to go to the 3rd floor to get to this chapel room here. And there's a cutscene where you'd have to watch Father Martin die, but we can just leave by doing that ghosting glitch. I believe it's called ghosting, but other people call it door clip. I just borrow that terminology from another runner. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed that exciting part of the run, because we get to the most boring part of the entire game, which is the underground lab.
It's really boring.
Yeah, this is exactly why any percent is boring in my opinion. Sorry, Cujo. Because literally the entire any percent run is just this chapter. The wrong orb strat itself is really cool though.
So after Nerd gets out of this elevator, there's a checkpoint, and that's actually not the checkpoint where he spawns to, but they're in any percent all chapters. You also make this jump all the way to lab from intern to admin.
And the 80% run, with the 80% run you hit a checkpoint that I just hit there near that decontamination chamber. So it warps you even further. And there is a cutscene, but not really cutscene, but a cinematic we'll have to watch in this area with a character named Dr. Wernicke. It's about a minute and a half long, and the holy grail of Outlast speedruns would be to find some way to skip that. And we've gotten pretty darn close to it, but skipping that cutscene is pretty much impossible. I have managed to find a skip for that by modifying the game files to give you an insanely high amount of height. when you jump, but that wouldn't be allowed for normal runs, obviously.
It's insane because the the entire game is so glitchy, and then lab comes up and the game's so solid, it seems.
Yeah.
It's like they hired a new level designer for lab.
Yeah, it's like they didn't realize what they were doing the first 7 chapters of the game, and by the time they got to Underground Lab, they realized, oh crap, our game is actually very broken. We're doing something wrong. Let's fix it.
Exactly.
Also, the chat is on a huge delay for me. I don't know how exactly a delay, but it's pretty long. So I'm gonna do a little strat here. Hopefully I get it.
I'm pretty sure Cujo is delayed though.
Oh! Maybe? Maybe? Come on! Come on, please! No, rip! So, what I was trying to do there was, so, spoiler alert, it doesn't actually save any time, but I was trying to do a semi-precise jump to get through that door as it was closing. That doesn't save any time because you have to wait for the cinematic anyway. It's really only worth going for in any percent, because it actually does save a very tiny amount of time. But considering the length of this category in particular, when you do it in runs in this, it's not that worth it. It's not that worth it to go for in this category. So yeah, Warnicki gives us a huge plot dump here. Basically what's happening is there is a company called the Murkoff Corporation that takes over this asylum, and they start doing experimentation with these nanobots in order to create super soldiers. And to do those tests, they use the asylum patients as their guinea pigs or test subjects. And as you can tell from this carnage right here, it did not go very well. And Traeger was a CEO of the company who underwent this experiment, which is dubbed the morphogenic engine. We'll actually be seeing that a bit later on in the chapter, but it's only for like a brief moment. So yeah, with Warnicki there gives us a couple of Warnicki there gives us the task of killing a guy named Billy Hope. He's the guy who's been controlling the Wall Rider, who is this black ghost to my left, the entire time. The Wall Rider, by the way, is the main antagonist of this game. So we have to do a couple of things. The first being we have to cut his, I believe it's his life support fluid? Yeah. And then we have to cut the wires to that life support system, and then press one final button to cut off the failsafe for that system. And
It's quite sad that there's not a skip for all this.
yeah. And once these big doors open, we get a taste of the morphogenic engine on those screens. There's actually a and the theater is actually really cool because it gives a whole exposition regarding the morphogenic engine. And it's a really cool point in the game, but we don't get to see that in this category. So after I turn the valve here in just a moment, we'll be doing a small little skip. It's the first of 2 we'll be doing in this chapter after turning this valve. So we're going to vault over this railing at a seemingly random spot, and we'll land on top of these barrels, and then we'll jump off the barrels, and that saves a bit of time compared to going down the stairs again. So there's Billy Hope, by the way. One thing I think we forgot to mention earlier on is so far throughout the run I've been jumping towards any objects I've been interacting with, like doors or crawl spaces. That saves a tiny bit of time each time you do it, but we do it quite a bit throughout the run, and it ends up saving quite a bit of time. Combined with ghosting and all these other skips I've been doing, doing all that is really key to getting a top time. To the point where you can be on a PB pace, miss one of those jumps or small skips, and then your chance of getting world record is just gone. It's the same in any percent especially, where literally every millisecond matters.
You'll make estimate, by the way.
Huh?
You're gonna make estimates.
Okay, cool. So after cutting these life support wires here, we'll be doing a very flashy skip called the Superman skip. Or Superman jump. Alright, and I got it, cool. So, normally there, you'd have to go down and around that same route I just went through to hit this cutscene trigger, but we can do this fancy jump here to hit the cutscene trigger instead. That saves about, I think about 15 seconds. And we'll be doing...
a fun story.
Yeah?
We can like tell the storyline of the DLC, but it's connected to the main game.
Yeah, we can do that with when we do Whistleblower, because that was met. But anyways, we did an animation skip there to both skip the hard fall animation and to skip the animation of pressing the button by pressing crouch again. So the plot at this point is we've successfully killed Billy Hope, but we're not quite out of the woods yet, because the wall rider here, who is sort of a product of those nanobot experiments I mentioned, he needs a living human in order to survive. And we just so happen to be the nearest human, so he goes inside of our body there. But this ending is one of the parts that fans of Outlast and even just casual players of the game don't really like about it all that much, because it's kind of an anticlimactic ending. Because, you know, you expect the ending where the main character, or kind of ending where the main character survives. So we have, as a result of that, we have a really slow hobble-like movement here, but we don't have to deal with it that much in this category, and it won't be that big a video when we get around to doing Whistleblower after this, because we don't get to see much of it. So I did a small little skip there, where I climbed up the railing. That skips past the trigger for a cinematic where Miles would stumble around. So time is coming up relatively soon. Miles's hand will hit the ground to start the last cutscene. When that happens, that will be time. I'll give it like 1 second of leeway because it happens fairly quickly. And time. Good stuff.
GG. It was a good run.
Yeah, but
all the skips.
theater skip was really stupid though. What was the time, by the way? I want to find out really quick before we switch over to Whistleblower. In fact, I'll go to the main menu really quick, but before that, 4234. All right. So the end.
Like this, I was like, what?